I'm Larry Farver, and let's queer up student and youth culture. New York school officials sue for the right to bully trans students. Parents and school board members from Long Island and Schenectady, New York, have sued Attorney General Letitia James and top state education officials, arguing that New York's efforts to protect transgender students amount to unconstitutional censorship. The lawsuit, filed by anti-trans Southeastern Legal Foundation, or SLF, challenges a May 8th letter from James and State Education Commissioner Betty Rosa. That letter instructed school leaders not to make or encourage comments that misgender transgendered students, question the legitimacy of their identities, or imply that including them in school activities endangers others. It cited state laws guaranteeing trans students access to appropriate facilities, protecting all students from discrimination, harassment, bullying, taunting, and intimidation. The guidance emphasized that free speech can coexist with reasonable viewpoint-neutral rules, preventing discriminatory or harassing comments. SLF argues the opposite, claiming the state is forcing school communities to self-censor. In a statement, SLF President Kim Hermann said, quote, Letitia James' policies that say students cannot speak at their own school board meetings about the stress and problematic policies around accommodating trans athletes are anti-American and anti-constitutional, end quote. The case lands as trans youth across the country report worsening mental health amid rising anti-trans rhetoric. A 2025 Trevor Project study found that increased depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation tied to such political attacks. Wow, it's really surreal to hear this story. I was having some flashbacks while I was reviewing this for our broadcast tonight. And, going back to when I was growing up and going to a middle school guidance counselor seeking out help as a future out gay man, but at the time I wasn't out, and I was the only gay preteen in middle school. And I was told basically by the guidance counselor that they're going to be kids like you who get picked on. I was a football jock and basically picked on kids like you. And that was the end of our meeting, and I walked out. And I walked out. I was not polite. I wasn't disrespectful. But many years later, I remember telling my mother this, and she said, why didn't you tell me? I said, what would you have done at the time? It was a very different time than we are in now. But to see this resurgence and justification is just appalling.
I mean, sorry, this is just another one of those at this point, I call it election campaign stunts because these so-called legal foundations, they try to model themselves the right-wing equivalent of the ACLU or the Southern Poverty Law Center. They all want to fashion themselves as the crusader of justice, but only on the other side of the aisle, and they're suing what exactly? I mean, this is New York State law. It is New York State public schools. If you don't like the public schools, there's also plenty of religious private school that you can send your kids to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Letitia James is a very studious attorney general. I've met her. There was a report I wrote from my day job, and we had a big event where she came to talk about the report. I mean, she's no dummy. So she's writing this and telling this is what the rules are. She's going to win in court. She has a very strong record in court. I think she's had a few. Her lawyers have done a few things with someone named Donald Trump and got some convictions, if I recall.
Yes,
and
also
he tried to go after her, and they all
failed. Failed spectacularly.
But when you look at what did she actually? School leaders can't say harmful things to their students, and yes, that's important. I'm sure that I know you call it an electoral stunt. These groups don't do electoral stunts. They do very horrifically smart attacks on trans kids. I remember when I was at Media Matters, one of the last things I researched on was trying to figure out, what was going on with this one school fight where a mother had to go to a school committee because they were a group of parents were trying to block their kid being able to use the restroom. This child was 6 or 7 years old at the time, and they were considered that they were the problem. They considered wanting to take their own life because of it. And who was behind that? Because I had to go digging through that parent group's Facebook. the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Of course
they
it is.
want to target. They've targeted kids before. There was another time where they targeted another kindergarten student, trying to claim that the kid was trans and assaulted someone. There was no assault. The kid wasn't even trans, but they love to target these sorts of kids. This group has not targeted an individual trans kid yet, but they will. And I'm sure that's why people like Letitia James understands we need to nip this in the butt now and say, no, you cannot target specific students. You can't go and do that crap in New York.
In I know Long Island, the Nassau County executive, whatever his name is, Republican, is now running for governor. And so that's why I thought that it was an electoral stunt, because look, the
I'm sure Republicans will do electoral. I know I wasn't criticizing you on this. I just mean that these legal groups are very scared.
Yeah, the harm is real. I mean, just like we watch Moms for Liberty, Freedom, whatever the hell thing. And they went in and dominated school boards. And that's one thing that some of us liberals kind of fall off the wagon often, is that we don't look at small races. Small races make huge impacts. Small races like school boards make huge impacts. But the opposition can keep creeping in and impose their values onto the entire public school system at large, or with the idea or with the intention of dismantling the school system altogether, so that everyone can go to religious private school on vouchers.
To give you some hope, the liberals are not very interested in local elections, but groups like the Democratic Socialists of America and Run for Something do have a lot of local candidates, and they do win. I know DSA, I think, won a race a couple years ago in Tampa, and they're always looking at new local races. And Run for Something, everybody and their sister signed up to consider running for office with them, and they're helping people up and down the ballot. So I don't want to say that elections are always the answer to everything, but there is a new progressive left wing to go and fight those.
Thank God.
And it reiterates the point that we all need to go out and vote, even if it's for the small elections. Don't just say other people will take care of it. Your vote counts.
Every time around November, every year, look at your November calendar. There might be an election on the horizon.
And Run for Something. I was horrified in my own town, Wilton Manors, with last election. Everyone and their sister ran for mayor, apparently. All the commissioners that were up, I think there were two of them, they didn't have any opponents. I was like, maybe one of you guys running for mayor could have run for commissioner. Just give us a little bit of choice, you have to do it everywhere.
Alex, are you willing to throw your heads in the ring?
I could be your campaign manager, Bobby. What?
No, the other way around, honey. The other way around. Yeah. There is no other queer nonprofit media platforms like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.